Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Grit Talk Show. We are back with our 24th episode. For those of you who do not know, Grit is a platform for coaches to offer their services. We also offer certifications in NLP, DIS certification, and we also are offering for the month of January EQ with Dr. Daman Vadia. So this is just an introduction of Grit, the platform. Do check it out on www.gritcoaches.com. For the Grit Talk Show series, today we have with us Hajra Sufian, who is a psychological counselor, a child a psychology counselor as well, EMDR practitioner, relationship counselor, and she has lots under her belt. Today, she has chosen a very interesting topic, that is employee depression. And with the quiet quitting and all that is going around, this is becoming an increasingly talked about subject. So today we will discuss more on this. I'm sure a lot of you would have questions and will resonate with the topic. So hello, Hajra, how are you?
Hello, Khatija. I'm fine. Hope you're well too.
Thank you. I'm doing great as well today. For this topic, Hajra, and your choice that we should be talking about this. So with the rising inflation and, recession, and all that's going on in the post-COVID world, mental health is coming in the forefront like it has never come before. So when it comes to depression, let's start from the very beginning. How does a person identify depression within themselves?
Okay. Thank you so much for giving me this chance. And hello, everybody. Hope you're all well. I'm Hajra Sufian, and I'm a mental health practitioner. I'm a psychological counselor, as you've already been told. So, yes, that's a very, very relevant question. The difference between sadness and depression. And these two terms, they are used interchangeably. And mostly we say that I'm very sad today and I am feeling very depressed today. And but these terms are used in a sense of a low mood. When we are feeling low or we are feeling sad about a certain situation, that's used in context of a low mood. But when we talk about actual depression, the major depressive disorder, the diagnosed depression, it is something which is linear. It's there. It's there to stay, and it engulfs you like a dark cloud. While if you're sad, you can feel happiness. You can feel at times you can feel the happiness also. You can feel life around you. You can have the energy and the motivation and guilt-free living. But if you're depressed, and when I talk about being depressed, I talk about being clinically depressed. If you're clinically depressed, there is there is no life left within. And if the severity level, if the level of depression is severe, it can cause suicide ideation, which is thinking or ruminating about suicide or planning to kill yourself. And you are simply unable to cope up with the daily activities, daily living. There is no energy left. There is no motivation. You're closed in a cage, which you just cannot break free. And I'll just touch upon very, very briefly since about the symptoms of depression, which is you have sleep disturbances. Either you're sleeping too well, too much, or you're sleeping too little. That's a coping mechanism. Or there's a loss of interest, as I just mentioned. You just don't want to do anything in life. Nothing excites you. Even the activities that one used to enjoy, they they hold no meaning for you. And there's a lot of guilt for not being able to cope up with daily activities, your work, your family life, your social life, because there is no energy left. You have no energy. And then there is lack of
So
concentration.
it's like a numbness.
It is.
Hmm.
It's a state of numbness. You are just fleeting through life, and at certain times, all you have to do is just to survive and hold on to the thread of life, which gets so weak that it can just break off in a few moments. Yes. So basically, that.
So you would suggest somebody who gets these suicidal thoughts, and like they're not feeling happiness at any point, and there's a numbness and there's gloom that's shadowing over them, to actually seek help, to
Yes,
go to a psychologist who would perhaps recommend them to a psychiatrist for medication. Is
definitely,
that right?
definitely. Because people who are on a severity level, they need medical intervention and they
Hmm.
need to see a psychiatrist. And
Hmm.
at times, when it gets even worse than that, that becomes a treatment resistant depression. And
Hmm.
that's on another level. That's on
Hmm. All
simply
right.
another.
So
And
for people like these, sorry to cut you, Hajra,
no,
for
no
people like
issues.
these who get to this severity level, is it can they be working um, like a regular job, or are they unable to perform like day in and day out activities like that as well?
Well, Khatija, they are high functioning depressive people also. Yes, they can be working, they can work, but at times, not at times, rather mostly, when they're going through a depressive episode, it is impossible. It is not possible for them to carry on with the deadlines, with getting out of their bed and going to office, and then completing their tasks at the office because they have no energy left. And then they get into this uh, pit pit of depression, they spiral into this pit of guilt, of shame, their inability to meet deadlines. And in Pakistan, here, if I talk about this part of the world, there is an astoundingly high level of lack of awareness amongst organizations, amongst the employers, uh, amongst
People
general
themselves.
people themselves. There is
Yes.
no awareness. People who are struggling with clinical depression, they need a supportive environment. And when I talk about a supportive work environment, I'm talking about giving them support. If they are unable to complete or meet a deadline or simply show up at office, it should be the responsibility of maybe uh, somebody from the HR or their direct boss or whoever is in charge to find out the reason. Why are they unable to show up? Why are they not able to meet a certain deadline?
Yes, so Hajra, you touched upon two things that I'd like to further go in more detail. One is you use the word episode. So is it episodic, or is it do people have episodes of depression, or is it like something, like allergy that you need to manage on a daily basis? How is it like?
Khatija, depression is on different levels. It's mild, moderate, severe, or treatment
Mhm.
resistant. So, if you're talking about somebody who's severely depressed, that has to be managed throughout their lives. They need psychotherapy, they need their changes in their daily routines, they need medical intervention on regular basis. It's there. It's like a constant battle that they have to, they have to fight.
Mhm.
But with people who are on mild or a moderate level, they can manage it with psychotherapies without medications, and they can carry on with their daily activities. And when I say an episode, depressive episodes is 2 weeks long. If you're depressed for 2 weeks straight, which means
Mm.
2 weeks of all the symptoms that I had earlier described, it's 2 weeks of those symptoms without any feeling of happiness, and when this looming gloominess and numbness,
Mm.
straight 2 weeks.
So minimum 2 weeks.
Yes,
And
and
if
yes,
it goes undiagnosed and untreated, how long can it linger for?
well, it can cause problems in their daily functioning, in their family life, and if it's if it's left untreated, then obviously it lingers on. It lingers on. This is a
Hmm.
minimum period of two weeks to
Yes,
diagnose.
so that brings us to a very, I think, important point that people don't normally realize that, for instance, you use the word high functioning as well. So
Yeah,
somebody who is full of energy normally, and is somebody very alert and operates. Like very chirpy as well normally, but then they have these episodes, and uh, sort of that which lasts for, as you said, 2 weeks, and then they're fine after a while. Then after some time again, it's bound to recur. If it's like clinical depression, it's bound to reoccur. But people don't realize the pattern because we are not aware of these things. We're not psychologists and psychiatrists for that matter. So we don't realize that there is a pattern to our um, symptoms. And so that way, for people who are high functioning, as you said, there are more chances of going undiagnosed for them as opposed to somebody who is at a mellower disposition and is normally bit reserved, quiet as well. For them, they might, because the disposition is and the energy level is at not as high either, so are they more likely to be diagnosed as opposed to the high functioning people? That's something I'd like to know.
yes, definitely, definitely, because the distress is real. Even for the high functioning ones, the distress is real. If you have the right kind of awareness, it cannot go undiagnosed. It's in black and white. If you're depressed or if you're not depressed, like sadness is in the gray areas, but depression and being not depressed, even the high functioning ones, it takes so much of their energy to cope up with a certain level of their expectations to be met, that it is imperative that they just uh, give in. They lose all the
Mm.
energy at some point in time, and they just give in to their depressive
Yes.
episodes.
So suicide is it has to be one of the symptom, like it is there. those ideas do come, or some people can have clinical depression and those ideas are not there, like it doesn't really go up to suicide. Is it a given or is it not?
No, basically, suicide is there in people with a severe level of depression.
Okay.
It's usually not there with mild and moderate. So people
Mm-hmm.
who are severely depressed and who need medical intervention, because as soon as you have ideation of suicide, you need medical intervention.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So it is
So
basically for the
mm, yes.
yeah.
Thank you for sharing this. Also, let's come to the environment. As you said, they need supportive environment, but
Yes.
especially in our part of the world where mental health, there's a lot of stigma surrounding um, acceptance of mental illnesses or maladjustments. So how can organizations be more supportive? How can they identify, because people are so hesitant because of the stigma attached, they would not even share it with the organization that we are clinically depressed. So how can the co-workers or the bosses identify this and deal with um, a team member that has declared depression versus undeclared depression?
Okay. Okay. First and foremost, there are a lot of cases where employees are hesitant to declare this
Hmm.
with the fear that either they will lose their job or there will be stigma attached around them. So they're extremely hesitant to, let their co-workers or their bosses know that what they're going through.
Hmm.
And secondly, I would say on an organizational level, um, I think it would be great if companies can hire clinical psychologists, or before that, they can run some campaigns to raise awareness uh, around depression, and
Hmm.
to negate all the stigmas and the myths attached to these. Because presently, I feel what I have seen is that employees who are unable to meet their deadlines or who are unable to show up at office, they're termed as
Hmm.
unmotivated, lazy, or they just don't care enough. But that's not true.
Hmm.
That's so not true. Those
Hmm.
employees are using up all of their energies just to survive. So on an
So,
organized,
so we nowadays there's a term which is like a buzzword, quiet quitting, where people are just doing their jobs. They just go and do the duties as laid out in the job descriptions, but they don't do anything extra, nor are they happy to go to work or motivated to go to work. So could that kind of could it be a symptom of depression?
definitely, definitely. But before that, it needs a formal diagnosis from a clinical psychologist before
Hmm.
terming them as lazy, or well, this is a very good question and a very relative question that you've come up with, that because they are unable to cope up with their daily activities, and they are simply unable to cope up or meet the deadline. So
Hmm.
yes, so they need a lot of support from their organization and from their bosses, who can also keep a separate budget for the treatment of depression, since it's a very, very expensive treatment also. So a separate
Mm.
budget for the employees and the work employees in the workforce.
Yes, but what do we do with the mindset that, says that if somebody is not productive enough, or if although they are not mentally impaired as such, but people, with certain biases and unawareness, level of unawareness, that's what they think. And what happens is that, then obviously with that kind of mindset, they're not willing to invest in treatments or offer, a budget for that. So any message for that kind of a mindset? I think that's
Yes,
a bit off
definitely.
topic, but yes, definitely at a personal level, or what your thoughts are as, as a psychologist, as a person, what do you think we should be doing as in our culture?
Well, I think first and foremost, awareness, and awareness amongst the top tier of the organization, because I'm sure those are educated people who believe in mental health issues, and
Mm.
because it can have a trickle down effect. They can have a separate maybe department, or as I mentioned earlier, they can have psychologists on board. They can either have them, carry out assessments on the
Mm.
facility, or refer them to the concerned therapists or psychiatrists.
Yes, like a
So
lot
it
of
has to
organizations.
be,
Yes.
exactly, it has to be on an organization and departmental level,
Mm.
because the employees can't do it on their own. There is
Yes,
a lot of
that's a
uncertainty.
great point. Actually, Hajra, that makes me realize that, a lot of organizations, local and even multinationals, they often collaborate with physicians for their employees. So they should have psychologists on board. Like,
Definitely.
our cricket teams have psychologists on board. So they shouldn't be stigma attached around that, because, the cricketers, for instance, they are humans too, and they can be some depressed athletes as well, who are clinically depressed. That does not
Most
mean that
definitely.
their performance or their potential or their talent is any less. So I think that part needs to be highlighted more and more, that people who are clinically depressed can be like, people who with dyslexia as well. um, like uh, there are some brilliant people who have been diagnosed with dyslexia. So instead of, yeah, but the lack of awareness makes us judge that they may not be able to do well. So I think the judgment, would you say, should be, we should try to be a little non-judgmental, perhaps.
Definitely. Empathy for the people who are depressed. It's a savior. It can save lives. And be there for them. Even if they're not able to show up, just let them know that, yes, we are here. And trust me, that's all matters. Know whatever level of depression they are on. Being there and showing up for them in one's own capacity, maybe they're on an organizational level, departmental level, amongst the employees. They just need to know that we are not alone in this. So I think the take home message of this would be that they should know that everybody is there to support them, and they're not alone, and their deadlines will be met, there will be flexibility, and they will have, yes, another thing, that they can have paid leave, just like they can have paid sick leave.
Yes.
I have seen cases, a number of cases, where a person who's going through a depressed episode has
Mm.
had to, go to a physician to get a
Mm.
certificate made.
Hmm.
because he couldn't give in the certificate of a psychiatrist.
By an organization. Like
Yes,
they would not
yes.
accept it from a
No,
psychologist.
no, no. And a very, very well known organization.
Hmm. So,
Hmm.
so we really need to work on our mindset, like have
Definitely. Definitely.
psychologists on board, just like we have physicians, and have
Yes.
treat it like any other illness instead of just and also judging that it could be affecting their talent or their potential, because I think if we nurture our people, then they are the ones who are actually running the business for us. So
Yes,
organizations
exactly.
need to invest in their people and have these awareness sessions, as you said very
Most
rightly.
definitely.
So,
Most definitely.
so we've covered most of it, but I have one more question before we wrap up, and that is for the co-workers. If they see somebody, um, how can they identify? Because sometimes we're not self-aware and we're so busy in our lives, we're not able to identify the patterns, we're totally disconnected with ourselves. So maybe somebody else who has a good level of empathy and has a good eye and is a good leader or a good manager, and perhaps they can be more cognizant of somebody having symptoms. But as you said that awareness sessions can make them more aware too, but those are for later. I think for now, what would you suggest? How can they identify and maybe suggest to the people that they need help at this point?
Well, the co-workers can be there for them. They can, find out are, uh, why aren't they showing up for work? Why is the person uh, not showing up for work? And why isn't he? What's wrong? They can assess his,
Mm,
his body movements. If he's concentrating, or if he's working
mm,
too slowly, or if he's simply not able to meet his deadlines. They can be there for him, maybe help him with the work,
mm.
uh, to complete the work, or just show up to him that what's wrong with you. Ask him, why aren't you showing up at work? So I think on this level,
So you're saying they can identify some eye movements or body language
yes,
as well.
body movement, because when you're depressed, your body
Mm,
movements gets
mm,
they get very slowed down. uh,
mm,
there's a psychomotor retardation. That's the correct word for it. Your motor activity that is retarded. Your thinking
mm.
process, there is no concentration. There is
Lack of
lots
things.
of, yes, there's lots of guilt around not being able to complete the work. So these are the things to look out for,
And
the
does that
signs to
guilt
look out
give
for.
rise to anger?
Of course, it does.
And so
The
depressed people can be angry as well. So that can be something
Yes,
that can be identified.
aggression, definitely. Aggression is a part of it. Since you're unable
Mm,
to cope up with your work, you feel guilty, you cannot concentrate. You get into that spiral. You can't
mm,
concentrate, there's brain fog, there's cognitive clouding. You're unable to think, make decisions, make judgments, reason out. That's all shut down.
mm.
There's a lot of guilt, there's a lot of shame in facing the
And they
bosses.
withdraw as well. They're a
Yes,
bit withdrawn.
obviously, of course. And that gives rise
Yes.
to aggression.
Mm, mm. So thank you so much, Hajra, for giving us all these insights. Because coming from somebody who is actually qualified for this, it doesn't happen every day that we have a guest on here sharing such insights. And this is being shared on LinkedIn as well, where they are, professionals and people who are working in that environment, and probably people uh, acting out of character. So I think instead of judging those people, let's try to understand why is somebody acting out of character, and let's be more supportive. As Hajra very correctly said, perhaps have more awareness sessions at least once a month, I think, because we tend to forget we are humans. And I think we should have psychologists coming at least, if not once a month, and then once a quarter, but please have them come in your organizations, talk more about mental health and normalize talking about it, and identifying, being more empathetic towards employees, towards our co-workers, our team members. So I think that's at the heart of it. Thank you for saying that, Hajra. Empathy. So empathy, non-judgment, and understanding. So we, our people, our human capital is the most important capital of any organization, if it's to progress, if it's to grow. So please do invest in that. Uh, Call to all the organizations, and collaborate with psychologists. There's Hajra over here. And I'm sure there are others that you can contact too. So please feel free to leave a comment in the comment box, or any question that you have for us, and Hajra and I will get back to that. Hajra, thank you so much for being here. And
Thank you so much, Khatija, for giving me this platform and this chance to share my thoughts on this debilitating disease of depression. And definitely, the take home message is don't leave them alone in this. They need you, they need your empathy.
absolutely. Thank you. And
You're most
on this
welcome.
note, I'll wish very happy weekend to all of you. Rest well, and stay safe. Hajra, a very nice and lovely weekend for you as well.
Thank
So
you so much. Same to you, Khatija.
have a nice evening.
Thank
Thank
you so much.
you. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye.